Hello, beautiful friend. I am Lauren Frontier. I'm an intuition coach and guide, and I specialize in EFT tapping and spiritual hypnosis. And I am going to be sharing with you more about what your intuition is and how to be in relationship with your intuition. Because if you are desiring to live a more soul-led, empowered, and intuitive life, it begins by cultivating this connection with yourself. So before we talk about how to be in relationship with your intuition, I think it's really important that we first address the question, what is your intuition? Your intuition is different than instinct. And I want to name this up front because I hear this from a lot of people. I've heard this from so many of you that one of the greatest challenges is knowing, is this my intuition or is this fear or the thinking mind? Or is it just what I want to believe to be true? Or is it doubt? How can I possibly know the difference, right? So often you are going to experience what I call instinct, and it can feel like that gut feeling. And this is different than intuition because that gut feeling and instinct is rooted in your embodied awareness of this human experience, right? And it's often connected to this primary drive and need to keep you safe, to keep you alive. That is not intuition. That is different than intuition because intuition is not something that begins in this embodied human experience. Intuition is the divine. Intuition is your connection with the divine, my love. It is your connection with your soul. Because you are not just a human here having this human experience. You are an infinite being having this human experience. Your intuition is your connection to the divine being that is you and to the divine wisdom of all of this life. So your intuition knows that, one, you are always safe, even in human experiences where we very much do not feel safe. Our intuition knows that us, who we are, is so much more than this human body and this human experience. And so to our intuition, we are always and infinitely safe. And two, to your intuition, there is always more time. So it is very different than this gut instinct to self-protect. That gut instinct to self-protect is instinct, not intuition. I want you to start thinking of your intuition as one of the most significant relationships in your life, because it is. And the truth is, it is for all of us. However, for most of us, we're not taught how to be in relationship with our intuition. So it becomes this powerful relationship that holds so much possibility for us. And yet we don't know how to tap into it and access it and use it. I want you to shift from imagining your intuition as this elusive thing that just exists out there in here somewhere. And I want you to start imagining it as one of your greatest partners in your life. Imagine your intuition like your best friend. Think of that person who is like your ride or die, right? Or your partner, right? Think of your intuition as a life partner because it is. So how do you be in relationship with the divine? How do you be in relationship with your intuition, this thing that, unlike your best friend or your partner, you can't see or feel or touch or hear with your physical senses? The most important thing that you can do to start cultivating this relationship with your intuition is to spend more time connecting. Create a regular practice of tuning in more often. Ask questions and listen. Trust your intuition and the messages that are flowing to you and through you like you would trust the words that are coming out of my mouth right now, because you can see my mouth moving and you can hear the words that I'm speaking. The only difference with your intuition is that it requires a trust in the non-physical. Because the way that you connect with your intuition is through your non-physical senses. It's through your clair senses. It's through the feeling and the knowings deep within you. And again, for many of us, we are not taught to be in relationship with our greatest inner knowing, let alone to trust those invisible, silent answers that are flowing to us and through us, right? Most of us have taken on this belief at some point that like, oh my God, does that mean that I'm crazy? Does that mean that I am losing my mind if I am now speaking to someone or something that does not exist here in physical form? My love, it simply means that you're awakening to the greater divine aspect of this life that already exists. It is there, it is within you, it is around you, and you're just allowing yourself to attune to it. As you begin to think of your relationship with your intuition as one of the most important relationships in your life, and you start to imagine your intuition truly as a life partner, I want you to think about this. I want you to imagine your best friend or your partner, that person that you know intimately and deeply. You have spent hours and hours in conversation with them. You know what drives them. You know what triggers them. You know what they're passionate about. You know their deepest desires. You know all of their likes and dislikes. You can imagine calling them and asking for advice and almost imagine what they're going to tell you. You can hear their voice in your head. You can be called in and given a lineup of 100 different people's voices that you have to listen to. And you know their voice so intimately that you can pick their voice out of that lineup because you know them, because you have spent time cultivating this connection and this relationship with them, right? Now imagine rewinding the clock and going back in time to when you first met them or right before you first met them. You don't know anything about them. You barely know what their voice sounds like. You definitely couldn't pick it out of a lineup of 100 other voices. You're not really sure what they desire or what triggers them or how they would give you advice because you haven't had experience being in relationship with them. Your relationship with your intuition is exactly the same. It feels hard to trust your intuition right now because you haven't cultivated that trust. You feel confused about, is this my intuition or is this the thinking mind? Is this fear? Is this doubt? Simply because you've not spent enough time being in conversation with your intuition yet. You feel disconnected from this relationship with yourself, from your divine self, because you haven't been encouraged to be in relationship in this way. As you do, as you start connecting with your intuition more often, as you start asking questions and letting the answers flow through, as you start spending time with those answers and getting curious, as you create space to feel safe in your body and open to being vulnerable, to building this relationship, you are going to deepen this connection. And the voice with your intuition is going to become as familiar to you as the voice of your best friend or your partner. You are going to know whether it's your intuition or fear because you're going to have received so much advice and guidance from your intuition that there is no doubt in your mind whether it is intuition or not. Asking questions and being open to receiving the answers is a really, really important part of cultivating this relationship with your intuition. Just like you wouldn't imagine first meeting your best friend and spending every conversation with them talking the whole time and then actually knowing anything about them. It's not possible, right? You have to ask them questions. You have to get curious to learn about them and their family and their childhood to know about what they want out of life. It requires a two-way conversation. So asking questions of your intuition and slowing down to receive those answers and being in that conversation with the divine wisdom that is always guiding you is how you're going to cultivate more trust. And if you want to dive right into experiencing what this feels like, I'm going to link to a couple other videos here that I think you may find helpful in this journey of intuition awakening.